Look at us. Let me see if I can get a thumbnail too. Here we go. Welcome, everybody. I don't know if anybody's here yet, but we're here. This is Michael Fisher again from Codify, and we're going to go over the ALCS. Are we just going to do game one today? Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, let's look at the starters and try to shake the cobwebs off of not having baseball for 2 days.
Yeah, that's a good point. What you got for? Who's going to win today? Now, look, we got people here. We didn't even tell anybody, and they're here. Good folks. Awesome. Good to see everybody.
Yeah, sometimes you watch we always watch the pitchers. We're pitcher guys, but you look at these guys' track record and versus some of the other guys we've watched this postseason. And I mean, is Verlander going to give up 7 earned runs today? No. Okay, I know it's the kiss of death and all that, but he's just not.
You just did it to him.
It won't happen. You know what I'm saying? Montgomery is pretty steady. You look at his track record. There's some hiccups and stuff, but if you really look at that lined up against a lot of other pitchers, like it's steadier.
Yeah, why am I feeling a little? I don't know. Like he has been on fire, and I like him. Like I think he's a good pitcher. Gets the job done. I just don't know what to expect today. I don't know. Like I had a tough time even picking this game. Montgomery is good. I don't know how many strikeouts he can get through this lineup. I assume they'll let him go relatively deep, but I just don't know.
Well, it's fascinating to look at how historically they've kept lefties away from him when the team plays him for obvious reasons, but you're not going to bench your lefties today. They're going to go up there. And it's interesting because, he does attack lefties very differently. And I don't think there's as much of a surprise factor. Heavy sinkers, heavy curveballs, pretty much it. I mean, that's most of what he does. So it'll be interesting to see when Jordan comes up or Tucker or whatever. It's like, okay, here we go. I mean, he doesn't have as much. He hasn't faced lefties as much. I mean, you go heavy righty against Jordan, which makes sense.
Where's the Ripper? I see Leo RC is asking. I mean, I wish he was there. Like he makes my life so much better when he's out there, but haven't seen him stabbing anybody this postseason. He has been like he's been working the bases, but I haven't seen him out there. I think Verlander with his playoff history can also shove today. That's my debate. Like, Verlander's lost a click, right? Like 1 click, maybe. I mean, just a tiny bit. His playoff history, like I think it's an advantage. I mean, that whole team's got an advantage from being there before, I would think. How big of an advantage is it? Don't know.
Yeah, if you look at Verlander this year, if you look at his fastball, he's actually getting better rise on it now than he was at the start of the season. Is it a tick down, depending on what you want to call a tick from his Cy Young season last year? Yeah, maybe. So it's like, yeah, not too worried about that. And if you're a baseball fan, don't you have to watch this game?
I think of course you got to watch the game. Come on.
I know he probably has to deal with the devil and all that stuff, but at some point he's going to throw his last pitch and you just want to be around. I mean, he can't, if he blows his arm out again. So we don't want to think about that stuff, but I'm just saying,
we don't want to think about that stuff. Way to be a downer, dude.
Nope. And no, enjoy. Don't regret that you're like, oh, I went out and jet ski today. It was a nice day out and missed the game.
Do you feel like he has to go like Montgomery has to go deeper than Verlander for them to win the game? Because I still am.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, the bullpen is a crapshoot. Leclerc's been really good, but again, Aroldis Chapman, all-time closer right now. Do you trust him in a tough spot? I think that's the question. Like he certainly didn't look that great.
That's a fascinating situation because, like we said, I think last time we discussed him, you have to use him,
right?
And so here we go. And every time it's just like, no matter what happens, it's like, oh, you have to turn it on and watch because it will not be boring.
It makes me nervous for him though. Sometimes, like I'm watching the dude, you can see his face, and it looks like he is. He just can't get a pitch over at times, and then sometimes he can be like he's got literally all-time dominant stuff. I mean, he's the poster child for velo. I mean,
yeah,
but wow.
Yeah. Another point to make, that's something not to gloss over, is you have two really good managers, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to appreciate that from a fan's perspective in a lot of ways, but those guys get a lot out of their teams.
Yeah. So like what makes, I agree with you, really good managers and a lot of old school meets new school stuff. I think Dusty is, I mean, both of them are really good at doing that. And I think it's really important that we get so lost, we get so lost in analytics sometimes, but we're dealing with people, and there is something to getting the best out of your players and knowing how to motivate different personality types and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. It is analytics. It's just not what we think of. It's more the touchy feely stuff, but they're still analyzing a player's mood and behavior and, their tendencies, and they're still performing analytics, just a different thing. And they're there.
Totally agree. And I think that actually using the word analytics is bad. Like, it's information. This is also information. We just haven't quantified it, but it's information that you could theoretically quantify at some point.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's a good example, these maps. I mean,
run
these maps in the morning. No, I'm saying the concept of, you're the manager standing right in front of Justin Verlander versus, okay, well, we're going to look at history and we're going to look at how your pitch is shaped, how it goes against this guy and all this stuff. But man, I'm not standing there when you come out from the bullpen, when you warmed up, saying, my curveball's not sharp today.
Right.
Because that changes everything or a lot. And those are just things like you're right there. You can look at like we talked about the guy's eyes, and it sounds silly, but it's so true. You just see so much. It's like looking at a guy. You're standing right there looking. So, it's called analytics, but it's really old school stuff. It is analytics. It's prehistoric, non-computer, touchy-feely stuff.
Right.
And sometimes it's horribly wrong, but a lot of times it's right.
If we stop calling it analytics and start calling it information, I think maybe people stop thinking. Yeah. Like, you don't want the most information you could possibly have, like you should. And information includes touchy-feely stuff too. Like it has to. What are your big matchups today? What do you see as like the biggest mismatch, and who are these pitchers going to have a tough time facing, and how would they attack them?
Well, I mean, it's no surprise Verlander likes to attack with that fastball up. There's plenty of evidence. I mean, we don't need maps to see that he's good up there, but he has an area where he attacks and kind of a miss area down into red for some guys that like a Corey Seager or a Marcus Semien, who are going to do a lot of damage to stuff down there. So I'm wildly interested in watching, especially up top, but watching what happens when he misses. He throws plenty of not blue fastballs, and it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does. He loves it. He loves his curveball. Just, the Codify maps don't really like it as much in a lot of cases as his slider. Yeah. Which is interesting, because sometimes he'll just be like, I'm throwing curveballs to this guy. Like, dude, throw a slider. I
thought he just did. Yeah, he actually just did that. But objectively, his slider is the bigger swing and miss pitch and is a better pitch for him. Although optically, I kind of like his curveball. Like, it is a hammer curveball, but optically it doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference.
No. And he can buy. Well, you asked about high sliders. Can't remember who we were talking about last time.
Oh, it was Strider, I think. Could get away with some high sliders.
Yeah. I mean, Verlander's got a big old strip up top with his slider.
Do you find some of your guys actually will intentionally throw? Because we still look at it. A lot of guys, it's a mistake. I know Shohei was intentionally throwing elevated sweepers this year to folks. Do you find that folks are adjusting to that, like knowing that they can and they will do it, as opposed to just making a mistake up there?
Are batters adjusting?
No, are pitchers adjusting and actually intentionally throwing elevated?
Definitely. It started out as kind of a joke. Actually, the very first guy I told was Dan Straley. He said, Freddie Freeman, I can't get him out.
Mm-hmm.
Where and I'm seeing this massive blue up and away with the slider. And he's like, what is that? And it's like, well, think about it. I mean, just think about a human, and then we'll talk about Freddie. But you just can't protect this area, and you're just not looking there. And he's going to he does destroy your fastball here and your slider over here, but it's just out of you don't get swings over there. And hell, you'll even steal some strikes, because we know how umpires are when a ball is coming back toward the zone. It doesn't have to be in the zone to be a strike. And he got Freeman a couple times on just silly, either, catatonic takes or swing. He had a swing and miss Freddie didn't get the bat within 2 feet of the ball. So it started out that way. And then as I started telling other guys about it, like, dude, you got to attack it. Just show it. If you're not going to use it, show it and get it in a guy's head. And he's like, yeah, actually, my pitching coach was telling me you might want to think about doing that. It's starting to get out there for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Because everybody's so used to the elevated fastball now that they're forgetting, or I think fans forget, they always assume, and this is wrong, assuming that every pitch, every breaking ball that's elevated is a hanging breaking ball. Hanging breaking ball is more like like something that doesn't actually move. You can throw a curveball that is not a hanging curveball that catches the top of the zone if you spin it right. Like you can, hanging is basically a spinner type thing where it doesn't have that movement.
Yeah, every pitcher is different, as you know. But are you more likely to throw a middle slider if you're attacking down and away, or trying to get that up and away, or up and in, or And some guys you have a ton of blue over there, but you tend, when you go for it, to F it up and throw that one that is a hanger, and now you're getting a new baseball. Yeah. But it's fascinating because it's still a wildly underutilized spot.
So you're saying no curveballs from Verlander, or fewer curveballs from Verlander. You're getting more sliders and elevated fastballs, occasionally maybe even an elevated slider. I've seen Verlander do it, and I just don't know if it's on purpose.
He should use his curve and show it, but what's he throw at 20% of the time? There's not a lot here to suggest that makes sense to some hitters, but
who's his toughest matchup? It's Seager, obviously, I would imagine, but
Seager. There's not a lot you can do against Seager. Simeon has really surprising. To some, maybe red fastball, red curve. He looks really good, but you can get Simeon with the change. Verlander's interesting is he has a similar mix, lefties and righties, really similar. Montgomery, no. So Simeon is closer than you might think to Seager. But Seager's pretty nasty.
So you're saying if I was going to bet someone to get a few hits today, that might be the angle to go to. Simeon maybe he might be able to get some good odds on
probably get good odds on that. Yeah.
And he's not a bad bet, just looking at the chart.
No. Yikes. And if you look at history, Verlander's thrown a lot of fastballs to Simeon when he's faced him, and they're all up, and they're either good ones, or they're down in the zone which is super red, or he's missing a lot up. So I'd say watch out for that one. That's going to be an interesting matchup. He's thrown plenty of very hittable for Simeon pitches to Simeon in the past.
Yeah, I think the thing that he's got is if he can get to the fifth, that I just think that they throw so many arms at you. That
that bullpen's brutal. So
I love their bullpen.
Yeah, it's going to be rough.
And you don't have that. You need. Again, I don't know that we know what the shifting would be with a healthy Scherzer. Who's going to get, is it Scherzer that's going to work in relief? Probably not.
Isn't it a horrible situation where there's another guy you have to use? He's not lathered up. I don't know what he's done on the side. You don't know how close to 100% he is.
Same game hangovers.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's what I don't know. Like I don't think you can expect top line Max Scherzer. Can you like a keyed up Max Scherzer for a couple of innings?
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good use of it? I don't know.
Probably can improve your bullpen. Throw him in there.
Well, is it going to hurt them?
No. Sorry, but no, it's not.
Right, like that. And they've navigated with it, but again, it just scares me unless they can redeploy. I know Heaney can do it. And I kind of like Heaney's stuff. Like he's one of those guys that's a little quirky, can get away with those elevated, basically everything elevated, right? I don't know what your maps say, but that would be one of those guys because he's throwing everything kind of uphill.
Yeah, absolutely unique, fairly unique path to the plate, and it buys him some interesting blue.
Is he a little like Mania, maybe in
a little bit of Diekman, a little bit of Mania, a little bit
a
little bit of the flingers that, for whatever reason, we've seen more of at Codify than the average population.
Probably because they can't be solved. Like you can't do it with just saying, looking at a hitter's normal heat maps, because these guys are different. They're attacking differently. And I would say that your ability to customize it for those guys, where it seems like teams still do a terrible job at it, is an important thing.
I can still say even today that the maps for the flingers look significantly different than what the teams are showing them. And there's always pause to a new guy of like, the team's not telling me to throw it there at all. They're saying actually avoid that. I'm like, dude, that's blue. And here's why. And it's been interesting to see, there's some guys that just like, that's the guy signing my check. And a couple guys have faded away, but the ones that have gone for is like, now you're attacking somewhere. Not only do they tell you not to, but you weren't trying to attack. And it's a whole nother surprise for the hitters and performance game.
Yeah. So toughest matchup for Montgomery.
Oh boy. I mean, he loves his sinker. Montgomery is, I mean, he, like we said, he's steady. I think of him as a good command guy. You may look at the numbers and go, but if you look at how he's thrown, it's not throwing a lot of high risk, high reward pitches. He could probably throw that sinker all day generally where he wants. So he has like strips of blue. Like it doesn't look as sexy on the map, but then you're like, he can hit that all day. So
yeah,
he doesn't force seam much. He probably shouldn't too much today. Keep it to the sinkers. What's interesting is he doesn't really throw. I have to look. His curveballs look wonderful to righties down low, like almost a Glasnow blue.
Yeah,
which is high praise.
Yeah,
it's mistakes. I mean, the whole lineup. I'm like I said before, I'm mostly intrigued with how he does against the lefties. Just not having really seen him as much and not varying his attack as much against lefties. Like Kyle Tucker can go up though, like I'm going to see sinkers and curves or whatever. And like, I kind of know what I'm going to see. Whereas some of the other hitters, the righties are like Abreu. I mean, it's all over the place. He throws the kitchen sink at Abreu. So it's a tough lineup for him.
All right. So that was my instinct. It's good to hear you say that, but he is one of those guys that I just feel doesn't get a lot of respect that he deserves for his ability to keep somebody a whole lineup off balance. And it's just it doesn't jump off the page to you watching him, but he's got good stuff.
Right. I think by steady, it is praise. It is maybe you're not going to, and he could, but maybe you're not going to shut him out or give up a run, but you're probably not going to give up 4 or 5. I mean, he's like,
you just definitely gave him the kiss of death.
No, he does though. He has it's the playoffs. So we're rolling dice. We're going to look at one roll and it's probably going to screw us all. But as opposed to other pitchers, I should probably run something and quantify this, but I would put him pretty high up on the steadiness spectrum, along with Verlander.
Yeah, that's good. But Verlander, everyone knows. Like everybody, they're sitting there. You're predisposed that he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. He's a stud, and we've seen him so much in these situations that everybody just you tip your cap to the dude.
Right.
I think Montgomery is not a first ballot Hall of Famer. I'm going to go out on a ledge. Say that
not first ballot.
Yeah.
It's interesting to contrast, not to slide anybody, but contrast Verlander to Kershaw and look at their careers and when they come into these situations, and when you're not successful, why was that?
Right. Well, I see Ben Kelly said it's a great way to describe the playoffs. It's basically a roll of the dice and you get one roll, and that's true. And I think that that's a great point overall, because a lot of the things, like if you ran a bunch of simulations, these are the ways to attack folks. But that's why a lot of it, you also have to not use traditional analytics. And over the long run, maybe maybe doing this is going to work, but you don't have a long run. So the way I love the way the Phillies ran their game against the Braves that last game, just throwing everybody at you. Like, we're going to attack from the very beginning of the game, shorten the game as best we can, and throw guys out there, regardless of what inning it is, using high leverage guys in the right spots. And it's because of that, exactly that. Over the long run, you can't do it because you're going to wear down your bullpen, and it just doesn't make any sense to build a team that way. But in the short run, you've got to, every game is so important. And you're seeing this, like, I don't blame the playoff format. I blame the teams that, number one, there's a crapshoot, but it's also different. You feel every pitch is so much more magnified. Every ball is a big deal. You're not taking any pitches off. And I don't feel you feel that during the regular season at all. Like, as somebody that watches every game, it's just not like you're playing the longer odds on that.
Right. It's good to see managers open to using their high leverage guys in the right situations. It's not like a new thought, but there's still managers that are just like, look, I mean, I'm saving this guy for later. It's like, dude, this is an elimination game. It's the 6th inning of a tight game. Like, this is your known high leverage. It might be high leverage later. We'll deal with that. Like, you have to get to that. And it was good to see the Phillies do it, to your point, of do it the way they did it, and
they had jumbled. And they had arms in reserve. It wasn't like they threw you still again had you had Kirkring and Hoffman who can flat out. I mean, they can throw. So you're not like you didn't really screw yourself, but they did go for it. And I think you're going to see that a lot. I assume I would like to see the Astros. The Astros can dagger folks with their bullpen. Like, they can shorten a game extremely well. And I would assume that that's what you're going to see. That's what makes me nervous about, like, even looking at lines on this or betting it. Strikeouts, you don't know how long someone's going to go. And I feel like I've been burnt by that a ton this postseason, because you see in matchups going, this guy should dominate this lineup. And then they're like, yeah, he's going to dominate it for 4 innings. And now we're going to, and now we're going to throw the bullpen at you, which is right.
So will Jordan Montgomery throw a pitch in the zone to Yordan Alvarez? Because he really hasn't done that lately. And it'll be interesting to see what happens when he does, because that, you talk about clutch guys, he's on the list.
What does his map look like against him? Is it curveball basically the only way to, like, what would his best pitch be?
Actually, busting him with sinkers in.
Okay.
Looks really good. Curve down and away. Good. He actually has pretty decent looking maps. He's just better hit his spots. Up and away with fastball, it's perfectly fine, but he doesn't throw 4-seamers that much. He's more sinker. But the inner half is fairly blue. It's not beautiful, deep, dark ocean blue, but for Yordan, it's like, that's fine. Let's just...
Yeah, he scares me.
Let's play the percentages here. So he's got spots there, but good Lord, don't miss.
What about guys like, I don't know, throw anybody out, like Bregman. What do you got?
Oh, gosh. There's another guy. I see a lot of this with other pitchers with Bregman, but just how well he defends the zone against a disparity of pitches. Like, you might see a guy like, I can defend the zone against fastballs pretty well, like better than most, but I'm screwed on breaking balls because I put more into defending on fastballs. Bregman is good at all of it. It's horrible red for curveballs. It's red almost entirely for 4-seamers and almost entirely sinkers. It's changeups to Bregman. If Montgomery called me up right now, it's heavy changeups. That's
who do you have? Bet. Is there who is the reliever for the Rangers who you would say that guy? Who are, or relievers? Who do you see as the guy that would be able to shut them down? High leverage guy.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'd have to look at that carefully. The answer would probably be different than I'd guess looking at the numbers initially. I think it'd be like dig into it and go, oh, he's got a key there. You know,
Mhm.
I'm not sure. I mean, I'm just, good Lord, just imagining Chapman going in there, you know?
Yeah, it depends if you get like I can see him in a lower leverage situation because I think he does like again, he's still throwing 100. I mean, was it touching 102? He's been up to 104 this year. It's not like he's lost anything. It's just you can see it. He just loses confidence sometimes. He throws a couple balls and then he's like, I
Yeah.
can't throw it. I can't throw a ball over the plate.
Right. I mean, you talk all the time about how rightfully that extra velo buys you so much, but
If you
you know,
can't, if
he
they're going
gets
to
so
take
crazy,
it,
like he can't even
yeah,
hit the damn zone.
yeah,
Like it's one thing if you're missing by a foot, but you aimed to middle and you missed and you're like, well, I'm still in the zone and I threw it 103. It's like, that's pretty rough. But he wasn't even doing that. And
right,
God,
exactly.
I mean, he got some lucky swings as it was. I'm like, dude, do not swing at this pitch.
Right.
Do not swing. And sometimes they were. So
Yeah, you've got to make him come to the zone.
yeah. So that's in his head. I mean, we clearly comes to the mound with past performance in his head. So
does anybody out there have any specific questions? We're happy to answer them. I know you can grill Fisher. He's been studying this all day. Nothing.
I have been staring at it longer than I care to admit. Watch out for Kyle Tucker today, though.
Okay, so another guy, if you're looking for a hitter to get a few hits.
I mean, Montgomery's going to try to bust him in with sinkers, and some curves away. And if he misses, I mean, you know, Kyle Tucker.
Yeah.
That is a rough lineup.
So your instincts, if you're picking someone to win this game, what do you got?
Straight up, if you make it easy on me, I mean, straight up, you have to pick the Astros. Straight up. You know, I don't know what kind of odds that make you give me to take the Rangers. I'm not saying. I mean, you know,
the line.
Yeah, the Astros
minus 144. Sure. I'm saying so. It's not. Yeah, I mean,
that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
If you told me, you know, 150 minus 150 or whatever, like I'd blank out.
It starts getting a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised. Again, it's one of those things that the Rangers could probably hit anybody, and it's keeping the Astros. So can the Astros. Like it's those lineups are brutal. And again, huge edge unless they can move pieces around to the Astros for a bullpen because they've done it. They come at you so many different ways. And yeah, I mean,
right. I mean, you start the game off and you're like, here's this 5'6" guy is coming to the plate. He has the second most postseason home runs ever or whatever. He turns into a Superman in the postseason. It's like, it's rough.
Yeah.
It's going to be rough. Yeah. So there's a lot of true edges to the Astros for sure. Again, rolling dice. That doesn't mean, you know, we've seen some wacky stuff in the postseason already. So don't bet your house on it or anything, but edges go there.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I guess it might be different the next game when you're taking Eovaldi out there. Is they have Fromber go in game 2, I think. Is that what?
I have to look. It was funny. It was A-Rod was saying Eovaldi was what did he say? The best arm he's seen in 25 years or whatever. And you know,
he makes shit up, dude.
Right. It's like, why did you do that? Like Nathan's like nearly great on his own, and then you say some ridiculous thing like that.
Right. I mean, he's no doubt he does have a great arm and all that, but the best arm he's seen in 25 years is then that doesn't make much sense, does it?
No, I was like looking around like, is this like a weird Mike Trout postseason thing where like hasn't he played with these guys? I'm like, yeah, okay, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's not right.
Whatever. I mean, again, I love him as a pitcher. I think he's a big game pitcher. He comes through, has really good stuff. Probably doesn't necessarily like he can throw hard, but doesn't jump off the page. We'll get there. We'll get there in that preview, but I think it's a different matchup. Montgomery, that's what I'm looking for. Change-ups, curveballs, how he's commanding the zone. If he's hitting his spots, he can make things great. Let's see. Talked about all right. So that's a good question. What makes Paul Sewald so effective? Just off topic, not on this game. I don't know if you run charts for him. Have
I work with him off and on.
Yeah.
Haven't in a while. But I should still be careful what I say. But I would be willing to say he has a better appreciation of where his pitches work than he did 3 or 4 years ago. And this is no stretch for anybody who's ever watched him. That bought him so much confidence. He goes out there and you're like, this guy's ready. Like he believes in himself. He goes, you see that with Ginkle and some other guys.
Yeah.
Confidence buys you so much. It can make a good pitch better. And not just, I'm not saying it magically makes the pitch go faster or move more, but just your ability to execute it.
Yeah. And is he one of those guys that also can throw elevated? I've noticed him occasionally throwing elevated.
He started to, yeah.
Stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. He used to be left and right with everything.
Yeah.
He's still got room to grow too. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, he's really turned his career around if you look at his trajectory and where he was 5 years ago.
Yeah. And we're going to go over that series. We'll go over some more tomorrow too, as we get closer to that game and break down those guys. So y'all that are on here, make sure you're subscribed and you will get our breakdowns pretty constantly. And is there anybody else you wanted that jumps out at you?
The umpire. I can't remember his name. Who's the guy going today? But his performance this season was weak, and he hasn't worked a game behind the plate in the postseason, so I don't know. I wish I remembered his name.
I didn't even look. We could probably find it out pretty quickly. If anybody in the chat knows, just shove it up there and we'll.
I thought it was for this game, and I was actually surprised because during the season they don't announce crews till an hour before the first game of a series. But I think it was Umpire Auditor had a tweet on it.
Okay,
so
we can look that up. Yeah, let me tell you who it is. It's funny because we don't ever talk about that, do we? About like
not as much as we should.
Right. He has Andy Fletcher, NLCS.
It's Fletcher. It's Fletcher. Oh, it's NLCS.
NLCS game 1, yeah.
Okay. That's the guy to watch. His performance was not good this
okay.
season.
Gotcha.
That's interesting. It's interesting that they've said who it is this early.
Yeah.
Maybe they vary for postseason. I just know it happens a lot for Codify guys who are like, hey, I'm going the first game of the series and I don't know who's umping, but I want, umpire specific maps. I'm like, dude, nobody knows.
Yeah.
They keep it a secret.
That's too bad because it is a factor. I mean, it'll be great when it's not a factor, I think, and it'll make your job probably easier.
Much.
Yeah, that you'll know like, hey, this pitch is going to get called because we have a robo ump that's going to be able to do it versus some guy that's going to miss games. I mean, obviously it didn't really, you can't play. I mean, you saw the Braves Phillies game 4. There were a few pitches that were off the plate getting called and stuff, but that's life. I mean, I thought it's fairly consistent. And it's really hard. Like, shoot, I've been back there calling balls and strikes, and I would never do better than those guys. But that's the point. That's why we need this. Is there's limits to what humans can actually see when the ball's going
right
at 100.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you when I visited the Nationals facility a couple of years back, and they were showing me around the campus, and we're walking by, and Scherzer is over in one of the bullpens, and he's throwing, and I'm like staring at him, and I stop walking. They're like, "Come on, Fisher, let's go." I'm like, No. Like when you walk by and you see Da Vinci on a hilltop painting, so you go over there. So I start walking over there, like, stop. I'm like, I'm not stopping. You're going to have to tackle me. And I ended up behind a little tennis court, like a mesh green fence. And the catcher was like leaning against it, catching him. So I was 64 feet away from him or whatever. Holy cow. I mean, make it clear. Neither one of us are ever saying this job is easy for umpires.
It's not.
It's harder than it's ever been. And they are doing better than they've ever done. Period. No debate.
Yeah.
The point is that good enough? And are you okay with maybe one of these games ending with a pitch that's a couple inches outside being called a strike and everybody goes home?
And my answer is it's not good enough. And I also don't think it's good enough with MLB is specifically, they like the idea of people betting on games because it means more people are watching games and it means more, more at stake. And I get that. That's totally cool. But you got to be able, like, to me, don't put that in people's head. Don't even give anybody the excuse that, oh, this umpire, had it. Just make it objective. We can do it. We have the technology to do it. I feel like the Astros are going to knock the Rangers clock in the first few innings. It could happen. I mean, that's in the realm of possibility. Like, Montgomery could be off, and if he's off a little bit, it could be a short outing for him.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, anything can happen. That said, I don't see a 6 or a 7 spot or anything like that with Montgomery. Yeah. He's pretty steady. But what does 3 runs mean in the first 2 innings with Verlander? Maybe not fun. So
yeah, Verlander only really having to go 5, probably
go 5 and then flip it over and be ready for.
I think that's what I would be ready for. So I'd be hesitant to, again, I was looking at K props for a game. I think I probably ended up with him at 6, which is doable, but it's also not doable. Like, I think it most certainly could be a shorter outing for him, and it might be a 3 or 4 from him and a very low number for Montgomery, who can get by weak contact or something.
6 for Verlander?
Yeah. What do you think?
What kind of numbers?
It's about even. I think that's close to even.
Yeah, it's just that problem you said of, like,
if I knew he was going to go 7, I'd feel a lot more comfortable than Verlander at 5. Right. Like,
right.
You're, and then does he K the side early and you get to that number fairly quickly? Could happen. I don't know.
Right. I know we've talked about these K props in the past, and we see soft spots above the numbers for a lot of pitchers where bettors are missing the opportunity above. But in the playoffs, I think they're overdoing it, and they're missing the other way. And I know you don't want to go out there and say, hey, guys, pick Verlander and did not strike out 6 guys today. And it's not really what you're doing.
But my instincts are unders. Like, and I've seen that over and over again. I'm more of an over guy because you're right. I don't like, if number one, it's more interesting for me if there's more strikeouts. Like, I've
never seen you do an under.
I have, and I've gotten burned on it too. So I like it. Number one, makes me feel bad. And number 2,
all right,
if I lose it, I feel doubly bad. But I would. My instincts are like, if I was really trying to make money on it, versus going for, like, I do it to have fun and to try to make money on it. Combination.
Right.
But if you're, like, looking at this game analytically, I think the Astros are not going to leave Verlander. I think they're going to say, go at it as hard as you can, as long as you can. We'll take the ball from you and go to our bullpen.
All right, go through the lineup twice or something.
Right, that's what I think,
and we'll see what's going on. Yeah,
I err on the side of Montgomery going longer in the game if he's at all successful. Again, bullpen issue, and I just see that more. Like, I think that's probably what they'd end up doing.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to freak him out, but you're begging Jordan to go 6 if he can.
Yeah. Speaking of that, how about Kershaw? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel bad for the guy. Like, I feel terrible that, but you, at this point, what do you do? Like, that was not good is an understatement, and he's obviously one of the greatest pitchers. I mean, first ballot Hall of Famer, almost Mount Rushmore type pitcher, especially if you limit it to the regular season. Is there a difference in the postseason? Is there people maybe being more patient? Is he not performing as well? What's your instinct on that?
It's like the clutch argument where you're like, this guy's a clutch guy. It's like in the postseason, I remember they did it with Bieber, and they're like, we're just not going to swing at breaking balls or whatever.
Right.
So, well, why the hell didn't you do that during the season?
Right.
Like what now, in some cases you wait and you ambush a guy with your plan and all that stuff, but that's not generally the way it works. So, I'm not so sure. I think that also gets overplayed, and like there's some magic solution that will work against a first ballot Hall of Famer only in the postseason. And like, he doesn't know that.
Right.
If that's true.
Unless he can't adjust.
So.
Like what I just see is he's such a perfectionist and maybe puts even more pressure on him that backfires a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know. He can't be throwing 89. I mean, that's
right.
it's not all about velo.
Well,
but
and he was
just
also like, he is legitimately not at 100%. So
Right.
yeah, this
Right,
year,
right.
in previous years, you know, what do you say? Like, there's some degree of randomness. If you look at, even Greg Maddux wasn't Greg Maddux in the postseason all the time. Like, he had some not
Mhm.
good postseasons. You look at the Braves, stuff ends up winning. And when you lose some velo, it seems like it's harder to weak contact your way through lineups. In the like, you need to have that dominance to be dominant in the postseason. Like, otherwise people just,
Right. It's easy to poo-poo between 89 and 91. You're like, yeah, it's the same. It's like, yeah, but it's not though. And
Right.
if you're talking about how that spreads out from his other pitches and stuff, I mean, these guys are selling their souls for fractions of inches and miles per hour and stuff. It's like 2 miles per hour is a lot. And, that and all the adrenaline and all that stuff. It's a fascinating thing. And we could talk for hours about why you talk about Maddux. Like, why wasn't Maddux like Maddux? Like, of all of the times, and why? And we don't necessarily know, but how much of it is upstairs? And then how does that apply today to these guys?
Right. What's up, Andrew? So if there's any other questions, feel free to shoot them over. We'll take one more good question. Unless you have anything else. Do you have anything else to add, sir?
Or we're going to look at this other game tomorrow, huh?
Yeah. We'll be breaking down the other game tomorrow, and I'll make sure to put out a little notice. I know there was no notice on this one, but we're also making sure Fisher's camera is working 100%, and it is today. So you're as clear as a bell.
Sorry, guys.
Clear as a bell. Probably not. That doesn't make any sense.
Nicest thing anyone said to me today.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. We'll break this down, and we'll try to do as many of these as we can during the rest of the playoffs, and we'll come up with some other cool content, like historical games. Maybe we'll go through them and even invite everybody in to watch and check it out. Yeah, notice, please. I know it's 3 a.m. in Australia. Jeez. Can the Diamondbacks make it? We're going to go over that tomorrow, the Diamondbacks. But again, I mean, looking at it as a preview, I mean, I have the Phillies. The Diamondbacks, can't keep underestimating the Diamondbacks, and they certainly. I mean, Zach Gallen is one of my favorite pitchers to watch, so we'll go over that.
That's going to be fascinating to watch.
Yeah, that's going to be a good series. So join us tomorrow. We'll shoot. I'll put it in the community when we're going to get on. Just we'll Fisher and I'll talk off screen and come up with a time, but we'll do this again. And thanks everybody for joining.
Take care, guys.
See y'all. In the stream.